Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Clutch Points. And today in the show, a really quick one, not really quick one. We'll go as long as I have to, but the Super Bowl's in like a half hour, not including all of the festivities. So I'm going to go ahead and knock this out, spend a little bit of time with you guys before we get to that Super Bowl, and then, see where the show takes us. Today in the show, we are obviously going to be talking about that Mark Williams trade that is no longer. We are going to be talking about that win over the Indiana Pacers. Good Lord, Austin Reeves, do your thing. We're going to be talking about the Lakers' options now that Mark Williams is no longer on the team. We'll also hit on what the impact this is going to have on the Lakers team building here moving forward. And then, we also have to talk about like the basketball aspect of this. Does this end the Lakers vying for a championship this year? Does that take away that possibility? So a whole bunch of stuff that we have to get to here, and not too much time to get to it before y'all obviously move along and go focus on the game. So let's go ahead and jump into it. A quick reminder, please do hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button. Please tell your friends about the show. Please tell your enemies that you hate the show. If you're listening to this in the morning via podcast, hit that subscribe button there. 5-star reviews, yada, yada, yada. And hey, I just saw the other day, I should probably be a little bit more in tune to this, but apparently we're like up against 5,000 followers. So shouts to you guys. Thank you for that support. Thank you for letting this thing continue to grow, and let's keep it going in that direction. All right. So the news that dropped late Saturday night, my time, was that Mark Williams, who was slated to be a Laker, is not going to be a Laker. Remember, the Lakers played the Indiana Pacers earlier that day, and a bit of a red flag popped up when Mark Williams wasn't cleared to play because they were still processing the trade. Not like mentally processing what it means to trade for Mark Williams, but literally processing all of going through the process of clearing him medically, taking a look at all of the specifics beyond what the Charlotte Hornets made available. And when the Lakers looked at the situation, had their people look at the situation, they found stuff about Mark Williams medically that they were concerned would impact his long-term future in the league, that the Charlotte Hornets didn't make available, information that the Charlotte Hornets didn't make available to the Lakers. At that point, because this trade obviously took place right up against the deadline, basically, there is now no longer time for them to go back. Normally when this happens, and we saw this with like the Dallas Mavericks, where they traded for Caleb Martin, and when they traded for Caleb Martin, they found some issues with his hip that they didn't like, that they didn't feel like the Sixers made available to them. And then when they found that, they basically continued to negotiate, and the Sixers had to not forfeit, but they gave up another second-round pick to finalize the trade. In this case, because that trade deadline has already passed, the Lakers couldn't go and ask for more from Charlotte. They just basically, because they aren't comfortable with the trade as it is currently, as the trade as it was agreed on, they had to just rescind the trade. And now Mark Williams is not a member of the Los Angeles Lakers. A couple things in terms of like what I've been hearing about this is that as soon as this happened, I had a few texts, and I reached out to some people, and I was like, damn, like what the hell? And they were, and I heard that around the league, there is a ton of concern about Mark Williams' foot and his back. and that apparently this injury has nothing to do with either of those things. It's completely separate of those two issues. The Lakers looked closely at the information pertaining to his foot injury, and they looked at the information pertaining to his back injury, and they, I'm told, were okay with both. But when they found this additional injury, which nobody is specifying what it is, the Lakers went back to Charlotte, said what the bleep, and Charlotte was like, "Oh yeah, sorry." And the Lakers, again, because they couldn't further negotiate the deal, did not. They rescinded the trade, and Williams is now no longer a Laker. Dalton Knecht comes back to the Lakers. Cam Reddish comes back to the Lakers for the time being. I think he's going to be waived. And the draft capital that the Lakers sent to Charlotte is also coming back to the Lakers. Fully rescinded trade. It now is existing as if it had never happened before. And tough spot for Dalton Knecht to be in. Similar spot that like Lamar Odom and Pau Gasol found themselves in when the Chris Paul trade was vetoed. It just is now going to depend on how he handles the situation. I would say, like, if he was really bummed about being traded, I would say to him, "Hey, man, like, we just traded Anthony Davis. Like, this is part of the deal. We're sorry that you maybe weren't thrilled about going to Charlotte, or that you thought you would be here with us a little bit longer. But we can all be professionals. We can all be adults here, and we can all move forward together. It's really your choice." And some players elect to do just that. Some players process things a little bit more emotionally and find it difficult to ever move past that shock of being traded by their team that they now have to go back to. As far as like how Dalton is going to handle this, like, we'll see. There's no way to get any intel on this because it just completely depends on the player. One moment he might be okay with it, another moment he might not. And over time, maybe he gets over it, or over time he just shuts down and says, "Bleep you guys, I'm out of here as soon first opportunity as I get." I would probably say to Dalton, "Hey man, you have a great opportunity to you, presented to you, where you get to knock down as many wide open jumpers as you possibly could handle, with passes coming from LeBron and Luka and Austin." I personally would try to make the best out of the situation, but I'm also going to be aware of the impact that these things have on a human being. So we'll see how he handles it. Again, Cam Reddish, he was already away from the team for personal reasons. Seems like he was getting wind that he was going to be traded one way or another. And we'll see how he handles that and if he returns to the team. But I do know the Lakers want to convert Christian Coloco eventually. And I would probably envision Cam Reddish getting waived in such a scenario because of how desperate they are for center bodies, right? Like, they are good on the wing. Injuries notwithstanding, the Lakers are good on the wing. They are not good at center. So as much as Christian Wood has been a bit of the butt of a joke all season, the Lakers kind of sort of need him to get healthy, and they really, really need Maxi Kleber to get healthy, and they really, really need Jaxson Hayes to stay healthy and stay out of foul trouble while those guys get healthy. And I would imagine that Christian Wood now figures a lot more heavily into the rotation, a lot more heavily into their plans. He's going to be not right now. The Lakers are going to wait as long as they can to do this because they are right up against the second apron. But the Lakers do, I believe, plan to convert Christian Coloco and make him a full-time NBA player once his days run out, that he would be with the NBA team, and would not be eligible to be on a two-way deal anymore. The Lakers would have to either waive or convert him, and the Lakers, I believe, are going to convert him. So That's as best as I can do right now in terms of like the immediacy of that trade. Next, we'll talk about the Lakers' options on the free agent market. We'll talk about the options or how this impact what the Lakers are going to do in this upcoming summer. And then we'll talk obviously about like what this means for the basketball team and what it's capable of. So let's get to that now. So as far as the options on the buyout market, I think the best option was probably Daniel Tice initially, but it would appear as of a few hours ago, he is going to sign in Europe. Remember, he's from Germany, and he wants to be a little bit closer to home, it would appear, and he's going to be going back to Europe, after a nice, solid NBA career, I would say. And I think he would help the Lakers right now. I like that he is mobile and can move his feet, and he's still athletic enough to get up there and finish above the rim. Now, he's very small by NBA center standards. He's only like 6'9". But like he is the kind of guy who I would have kind of liked. That type of archetype of player, Larry Nance Jr., is somebody who, if he isn't bought out this year, which I don't anticipate he's going to be bought out, unless he specifically goes to, like, this is something the Lakers can do, is they can back channel tamper, but they can back channel and basically let agents all over the league know, hey, if your NBA ready center can get bought out here and he makes less than like 12.8 something million bucks this season, might want to push for that buyout. Now, it does require giving up bird rights, and that's why some of these free agents don't wind up doing it. It would require being now considered a veteran minimum player, which a lot of impending free agents don't necessarily want to do, because now they have to prove that they are not that. And then it would require actually thriving in the role that the Lakers would have for them upon getting to LA. But the Lakers, I'm sure, are doing everything they can to communicate to the as many agents as they possibly can. Basically saying, like, not saying any of your clients specifically, but if your player is especially like anywhere near starting caliber, we're looking, and we'll see what that gets them. What I will say on that front is, planning wise, it's going to kind of matter. Now, they can sign, like, if they waive, say, Christian Wood and Cam Reddish right now, they have like 1.8-ish million bucks between where they sit right now and the second apron, which I'm told the Lakers are not going to exceed. So if they and by the way, they could exceed it. Like, if they basically wanted to pay somebody more than the prorated veteran minimum, and push themselves above the second apron, they could technically do that. That would just give them a bit of a headache heading into the offseason. And that is not something that I believe that they are inclined to do. So what the Lakers can do, though, is they can waive Christian Wood, they can waive Cam Reddish. That way you have a roster spot for Christian Coloco, and they have then they would have a roster spot for whatever buyout candidate that they would have, and they would have room under the second apron to sign 2 prorated minimums as of today, right? It'd be like $900,000 each, and that adds up to about 1.7 mil, and there you go. Now, originally, after they had traded for Mark Williams, I was told the Lakers were really going to take their time, bring in a bunch of guys on 10-day contracts, bring in a bunch of guys for workouts and stuff like that. Workouts obviously don't count against the cap. They don't cost anything, but they were going to really take their time and be super thorough to make sure whoever it is they bring in, they are comfortable with that player playing in the postseason, because otherwise there's no real point in bringing said player over. Now, what that means because they didn't shed salary as a result of this Mark Williams trade, or the trade that is now rescinded, they don't have that flexibility. Each 10-day contract, roughly about 250K, that does count against your cap. And if you do that enough times, then you have to keep waiting longer and longer and longer to convert that player from a 10-day contract into a full-on NBA contract. And then that, gives you that much less gap for the next player that either you go through that process with again, or say you convert Christian Coloco. Nice thing with Christian Coloco is he's younger, and his prorated minimum is actually going to be on the lower end of what it would cost. But some of these guys, like say it would have been Tice, he would be in that like higher range of service time in the NBA, and his prorated veteran minimum would be a little bit more expensive than Christian Coloco's. And if you sign a couple of those guys to those kinds of deals, then you're really, really up against that second apron, which again, I am told pretty definitively that the Lakers are not interested in doing for a variety of reasons. Some of them basketball, some of them financial, part of it too, but some of it basketball. So that's where things stand in terms of like their search right now. Guys I would prefer, I think Alex Len might be available. There was a report that he was nearing an agreement with the Indiana Pacers. Now, it's not the best business for him to go to Indiana and be like, hey guys, sorry, I might start over there with the Lakers and then peace out. Like that, that would risk his relationship with that team. That would risk his agent's relationship with that team. And that would really, that's, if he thinks it's worth that risk, worth that gamble, then sure. But, it remains to be seen whether or not he does. As far as other options out there, like there just aren't a ton. Like it's just, maybe you hope that Steven Adams gets bought out, but a lot of these teams, knowing that it would help the Lakers, are going to hold off on buying out their players or waiving their players for the simple fact that it's like if you're the Rockets and the Lakers desperately need a center. By the way, Steven Adams plays for them, so they aren't going to buy him out anyway. But let's say Steven Adams wasn't playing for you, and he is kind of the archetype of player that the Lakers could probably use. The Rockets are going to be like, no, man, we might see you guys in the playoffs. Why the hell would I sign, or why the hell would we waive somebody who is going to turn around and make you better potentially against us in the playoffs? So like, if you have a good player on say Houston or Memphis or OKC, now OKC is a little different. I think they knew Tice was getting ready or wanted to go to Europe. So they were like, all right, that's fine. Go ahead. But I think it matters less in the Eastern Conference. Like again, I'm looking at Atlanta, and maybe it's just optimism on my part, but I kind of sort of like hope that Nance goes to Atlanta's leadership and is like, hey, you guys are clearly heading towards a rebuild. I'm not even positive you guys are going to make the playoffs. Can you buy me out? Can you let me go to the Lakers, go back to the Lakers and see if I can help that team? Now he's a really good dude, Nance is. So I don't know if he would actually, ask to be bought out and stuff like that. And again, like there's financial risk involved in it too, because once he gets to the Lakers, they no longer have his bird rights. Nobody has his bird rights, and anybody who does acquire him would do so using either an exception or cap space. And I don't know how many teams would line up to do that for Larry Nance Jr. given his injury history, but fingers crossed. Outside of that, though, like I saw Jason Timp threw together a list or tweeted out a couple of lists of either guys that could be available or are actually currently available, and it's just not a very inspiring list. So I think the Lakers, again, will eventually convert Coloco. That's one center. And then I think they'll really, really hope that Maxi Kleber gets healthy, that, and 8 weeks puts him at about like the last few weeks of the NBA season. And then it's like the conditioning and physical therapy aspect of things. And then the timing that he would need to build back up, that puts him really up against it. there were some like whispers out there that maybe, just maybe, Christian Wood is looking for like a late February return. Again, as I've always said with him and with Jared Vanderbilt, I will believe that they are available when they are available, or I will believe that he is going to be available after he has played for a couple of weeks. So I'm not going to like put too many eggs in that basket either. Like I think it's just as likely that rather than go out and sign somebody, for a break glass in case of emergency type option, that the Lakers basically say to LeBron and to Vando and to Rui and to DFS, like, hey guys, you might have to play some small ball center in the playoffs, because we would rather give you guys a few minutes each and add up to the 10 to 15 minutes or so at center that we really, really need. We would rather do that than sign somebody in hope that some current free agent who is a free agent for a reason would step in and be good with, in that spot. So I have really liked, like, this is the best. Like, Darvin Ham tried to play small, and like Frank Vogel was like forced to play small. He needed so kicking and screaming. This is the best the small ball has ever looked for the Lakers, and it's because it's not necessarily all that small. It is because, like, LeBron is huge. Rui is huge. Vando is not huge, but he's crazy athletic and super energetic, and his motor is crazy. So that really helps. Dorian Finney-Smith is a longer wing, and he's a physical wing. And so, like, when the Lakers go small, it's yes, it's small at center, but it's big everywhere else. Luka, when he comes back, is huge. That's the whole reason he was available. So like the Lakers going small right now isn't as terrifying as it was when like Darvin Ham would talk about it, because when he said small, he was like micro ball with 3 point guards. But in this case, when the Lakers go small, it's Austin Reeves at like 6'5" or so, 6'5", 6'6" at point guard. And then it's Luka, and then it's 3 other wings. And the positional size elsewhere makes up for the lack of positional size at center. And maybe that's what the Lakers are thinking there at that position, or in their approach there. So I know it's not the best. Look, this is not an optimal situation. Optimally, the Lakers would have looked past the foot problems as they were ready to, and looked past the back problems as they were ready to. But I think they like said, all right, foot problems, okay, back problems, ooh, man, back and foot problems, ooh. And then back and foot, and another problem that makes him potentially, not viable moving forward for the rest of his career. No, we're done. On top of those concerns, like, I think Charlotte really screwed themselves here, because their reputation in these negotiations is in the shitter. We are actually seeing another situation play out very similarly with the trade that they made with the Phoenix Suns for Yusuf Nurkic, where Cody Martin, I believe there's some concern about him, and how good he is going to be physically. And maybe that trade gets rescinded too. So, and then if they do that twice, if they have 2 trades rescinded, good luck ever getting into negotiations with another team ever again. And if you do, you're going to have to pay up in order to undo the damage that they've done to their reputation throughout this entire thing. So, there's all of that to consider there. But I think first and foremost, though, the Lakers are going to have to send out those feelers, send out that mass text to the agents, and see what those agents are able to do to convince their player or their client, hey, maybe you should consider taking a buyout here, or asking for a buyout, so that you can go to the Lakers if your team is willing to do that for you, and see what that looks like. But right now, man, it's a whole bunch of not great options outside of that one. One quick point, and I'm going to be honest, I had a little bit of wine to drink last night, and I probably shouldn't have tweeted through it last night and just waited to just get to it today, but whatever, it happened. What I will say about the point that I was trying to make last night is that I have always criticized the Lakers for their intel problem. They thought they were getting Kawhi Leonard, and then they didn't. They thought they were getting Klay Thompson, and then they didn't. And they thought this, and they thought that, and they thought this. And it's a lot of situations was like, oh, you thought, huh? You know, and in this case, like, right when this happened, enough people reached out to me to say, yeah, that dude is a ticking time bomb. We're not sure he's going to be able to play 3 years from now, let alone play important playoff minutes as a starter for you right now. And enough people like reached out to me to say, like, to point that out, or to make that point, that I'm like, how is this such a loud conversation now after the fact, that it wasn't more of taken into consideration during the fact, while the Lakers were getting ready to potentially trade for this guy? And now people I've talked to closer to the Lakers are adamant there is nothing that we could have done that would have prevented this. No amount of information. Nobody knew about this. People are like shocked that they're finding this out about this guy now. And Dallas, again, ruined their reputation for the sake of withholding that information. Altogether possible too. But I continue to think that, like, one of the things the Lakers need to really invest in are more people to just go out and data mine. Just go out there and get intel, all the intel they can possibly get, so that when you make these trades, or when you're getting ready to make these trades, you are never like as reactive as the Lakers are currently finding themselves. And I think the Lakers have been consistently more reactive than proactive in some of these situations, because they operated a bit of a deficiency in terms of their league-wide intel. Another example of when they have good intel is like the Luka situation, where Rob has that great relationship with Nico Harrison. Nico and he worked together on a trade that nobody knew about, and that gave them a huge advantage on the rest of the league, because they were able to pull off that deal with no other negotiating that Dallas was getting ready to do. And that kind of a thing, like, you want that to happen more often. And if I were the Lakers, I would invest in more ways, or more people who would give you that kind of intel advantage, so you could like, use it and bend the league more to your will than the Lakers have to this point. All right. Let's go ahead and the championship ceiling. So I recorded a podcast on Saturday that was super duper optimistic, and I'm going to go ahead and take the blame for this one. Anytime I do that, especially with Pete for some reason this year, bad shit happens, or weird shit happens, or all of that nonsense happens. So in this case, my bad. Hands to God, my bad. Do I think they are a championship contender? I said with Pete that, like, they could have an 8.5 out of 10 season and still win a championship with the roster as we thought it was going to be constructed. And that was with, like, the flexibility they were going to have on the buyout market as well. Now, they're right back to not having any. I think they can win a championship, but I think they used up all of their margin for error with this entire debacle. And again, not even necessarily their fault. It for damn sure isn't all their fault, but I would say 90 to 95% Charlotte's fault here. And the Lakers, they tried to pull one over on the Lakers, and the Lakers found out about this and what was going on a little too soon. Or a little too late. And one of the things that I was told in getting ready for this show today is there's some belief in league circles that the Hornets made Mark Williams available so late in the transaction window that they were basically hoping they would, whoever they traded him to would, because it's either like we either rescind the trade or go through it as it was built, knowing that, like, they probably should have gotten more out of Charlotte. Like there are enough people I've spoken to who are like, yeah, that was probably done on purpose. And what do you do if you work with somebody who isn't willing to operate in good faith or negotiate in good faith? And that's where the Lakers currently find themselves. But I think they need to have like a 9.5 or 10 out of 10 type season from here on out to win a championship. They got to get the best matchups in the postseason. Now, I thought there was a path to potentially being kind of matchup proof if they handled the buyout market correctly. Now I do think like you got to hope that you face OKC instead of Denver late in the playoffs. You got to hope that you play like Houston early on, or Memphis, or you get the right, you just basically find yourself on the right side of the bracket for the entirety of the West playoffs, and then you pull off an upset here and there on your way to competing or winning a championship. I do like the way that the Lakers are built to contend with the Celtics, in that they shoot so many threes that the Lakers are able to apply pressure on the perimeter that would make them uncomfortable shooting those threes. And they'll be able to play 5 out and force like Kristaps Porzingis to operate in space. So I do think they match up pretty well in this scenario against Boston. And like a team like Cleveland makes me more nervous now because that front court gave Anthony Davis problems. Now they're definitely going to give Jaxson Hayes and Christian Coloco and whoever else the Lakers add to their center rotation. So I still think they can contend for a championship. One thing is for sure, this season's going to be fascinating no matter what. Like there is so many reasons to continue to watch this and monitor this over the course of the rest of the season. And then moving forward too, because I think they're really capable of some cool stuff this upcoming offseason because this trade didn't go through. The fact that they'll have so many expiring contracts, and now the first round pick that they got back and the pick swap that they get back, that allows you to go out and get like whatever center that you could possibly want, or one who just kind of better fills the stopgap. I think they probably pick up that conversation with Utah, because Kessler is going to be less valuable this year with only 1 year left on his deal before you have to pay him. I would imagine they call up Utah about Walker Kessler and hope that Danny Ainge is over the fact that the Lakers kind of hoodwinked him. But regardless, I think they can win a championship now. They're going to be super fascinating, super fun to watch for the rest of the season. And then this upcoming offseason, I think they can still do some really cool stuff then too. All right, let's go ahead and jump on into these starred comments, which means we get to play this bad boy. All right, Justin Tyndall writes, did the Hornets lie? They must have known about the injuries. Yeah, that's the, yeah. All right. It depends on how you feel about like your definition of lying. Does withholding information count as lying to you? If it does, then yeah, they lied. Right? Like if I go out, or if somebody goes out and they go to a bar and they spend the whole time flirting there with somebody that their significant other would not love that they were flirting with the whole time that they were there. And then, the significant other asks, hey, how was your time there with the guys? How was your time there at the bar? And you say it was great. Yeah, we just kind of sat there and, just kind of chilled, and you withhold that information there that like, I would probably count that as lying. So in this case, like the Lakers asked, like, hey, how's this everything? And they're like, hey, the back's not great, the foot's not great, but outside of that, we think that he's probably pretty much okay. And the Lakers looked at it, it was like, what the hell? You're on camera. They have a security camera there. And for some reason, somebody caught a picture of you like with your hand on this girl's like, what's going on? And that's I think how I would represent what happened here. Good Lord. Brandon Omang writes, Wavewood / Milton sign Andre and Nance. Drummond. We're good at shooting guard with ARDK and DK, Dalton Knecht, and Cam Reddish. Use Cam Reddish occasionally for defensive purposes. Would be nice if Wood and Kleba was healthy. I could see where you're at there with Shake, that like maybe it makes more sense to waive him than Reddish. The big thing there is like Reddish was away. Now we don't know what the personal reasons were. It could be anything, but he was away from the team for personal reasons before they traded him. And then they, obviously they actually trade the guy. And then now they got to like welcome him back. I don't know how invested in the Lakers situation he is actually going to be. My advice to Cam Reddish, not that he cares or needs it, but dude, you are on your way out of the NBA. And like, if you don't, like, if the Lakers do decide to waive Shake and keep you for those defensive purposes, you'd better defend your ass off, man, because you need to prove to some other team there to invest in you next year. Won't be the Lakers. I don't think the Lakers are going to look to re-sign him after the season, but maybe somebody else does. And you're going to be, this is the best opportunity that you're going to have to give yourself that opportunity this upcoming offseason. And you better get it right, man, because otherwise it is not looking good for the rest of your time in the NBA. Next one here comes from JK Productions. So, has a team with the starting center as bad as Hayes ever won a chip? Dodging Williams is great. Not having a center is a disaster. Does Wood hate B-ball? I don't know what's been going on with Wood's injury, man, and nobody seems all that interested in talking about it when you try to have a conversation about it. So I don't know what's going on. Now, who is the worst center to ever win a championship? Bosch was their center in Miami, so he doesn't count. Draymond was the center in Golden State, so like, their other centers there don't really count, like the Festus Ezeli types. Well, yeah. Yeah, Hayes would be the worst starting center and center who is like their only center. Now, like, it depends on, all right, are you going to count like LeBron as a center when they go small, or Rui as a center, or Vando as a center, to kind of fudge the numbers there a little bit? I guess you could do that and analyze that situation that way, but it is not, it would be the worst center rotation to ever win a championship if the Lakers were able to pull this off, which if they are able to pull it off and then you add a center to the equation next year, then good God, that team becomes really exciting. It's kind of like the Dodgers, right? They won the World Series this year, and the whole time you're like, geez, they did this without Shohei pitching. And they did this with basically like, a whole bunch of bullpen starts over the course of the World Series. Good God, what are they capable next year of? And then they went out and had the insane offseason that they did. So, like, we'll see how this turns out. I don't foresee a championship here. But look, it's Luka, it's LeBron. You could do worse than whatever they're going to do for the rest of the year. Let's see. Okay. LankyBot writes, hey, Anthony, given the options available, do you think the Lakers should just scrap going for a buyout 5? Should they settle for a defensive-oriented player who can keep up with playing small ball? It's a great question. It really, really is. I think you kind of sort of have to treat this like the draft and take the best player available, like the most talented player available, somebody that you look at and you say, you could play 10 to 15 minutes for us in a pinch in the playoffs, right? Whether that's Lonnie Walker, who literally did that for them when they were on their way to the Western Conference Finals, whether that's somebody like Jaden Springer, who the Celtics felt that way about, but waived for financial reasons, whether that's somebody like who's the guy from Detroit who just got bought out, who I'm blanking on, like, maybe you basically say like, no, we're going to commit to this and we're going to be the best possible version of this identity that we can be. even if that means passing up on the center or the center position altogether in the buyout market. Maybe you consider Koloko as like your buyout center addition, and that allows you to go invested on the perimeter defensively. I think that's probably how I would consider it. Because like, let's say miraculously Wood and Kleba get healthy now, and then you added a center on the buyout situation and you converted Koloko. That is Hayes, Koloko, Wood, Kleba, and the center that you bring in on the buyout market. That's a lot of centers, plus the amount of time that you're going to be playing small as well over the course of the playoffs. Maybe that's an over allocation of resources now, given how few resources that you actually have to work with. Maybe it makes more sense to convert Goodwin from the two-way contract to a full-time contract, given what we saw from him the other night. Who knows? But regardless, like the Lakers have some real tough, questions to ask themselves here. And the answers basically all have to work out to the nth degree positive to give themselves a chance at a real chance at a championship this season. Barnes writes, Bamba is better than Koloko, 53% defensive field goal percentage at the rim versus 60%. Look, the Lakers went through the Bamba experience already and weren't fans. So I would be pretty surprised if, maybe they go and reach out to him and like, hey, man, you're going to get your shit together, because he's another guy, right? He's kind of like Reddish, where it's like super talented player, but negative motor. And, that was pretty high on Rob Pelinka's priority list there for the kind of center that he would like for the Lakers to go out and get. So are you willing to risk that with Mo Bamba? Somebody who the Lakers, again, they brought in, they traded for, and then they let him walk because they were like, that sucked. No, thank you. I'm skeptical, but you know what? Like in terms of raw talent, again, best player available, maybe that's the move. But I think they'd rather just sign Koloko and then bring in a smaller player who can defend. JK Productions writes, if the Lakers play Jokic with this roster, loss. Look, if the Lakers played Jokic with Anthony Davis on the roster, it was an automatic loss there too. So maybe stretching the Nuggets out and forcing Jokic to operate defensively in more space is a better approach than bulking up and trying to, not get out physical by somebody who's probably going to out physical you anyway. Maybe, I don't know, right? It's like, trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while you're falling out of an airplane. Like, yeah, like you could technically do it, but there's a lot going on while you're trying to do it. So I tend to think that the Lakers would probably prefer to go small more and try to space them out. But again, if the absolute right center comes available, then they'll take that opportunity. Let's see. Justin Tyndall writes, any talk on the Dorian Finney-Smith extension? So he's extension available according to Trevor over there at Lakers Nation, starting this upcoming week. He is obviously very close with Luka. He is like transformed the Lakers defense once he got there. The Lakers love having him there. He's also a little older, a little longer in the tooth, and maybe a little concerned with how he ages. Is shooting the ball well, so that's going to help him age too. And he's a smart defensive player, which is also going to help him. I would probably predict that they like rip up his player option and then sign him to like a 2-year contract, so that next year, maybe a 1-1 even. So that like you go like give him a raise for next year and then a 1-1 after that. I think that gives him a no trade clause too. But I like the Lakers books after 2026 are super clean. Now they would have been nice to have them clean and have Mark Williams on the roster, a healthy Mark Williams on the roster, so that they're that clean and you have a starting center. But that's just not how it's going to play out. So it's going to be interesting to see to what extent they care about how clean those books stay and remain. But given how few trade assets the Lakers have at their disposal, they're going to have to improve their team, with solid role players through free agency, exceptions, cap room, stuff like that. Maybe they trade for a player who has a really bad contract, who can still play, but again, has a really bad contract, and they trade for that player into some cap room and give themselves an extra asset there. We'll see, but any number of things that they can do here, and what they are going to be very cognizant of with Dorian's extension is like making sure that they maintain as much flexibility as they can while keeping a guy that they really, really like. Jonesy writes, in defense of the Lakers, they didn't even know Mark was on the market. Hornets called Rob at the last hour. Yeah, and it appears enough people within the Lakers internally are like, yeah, it's probably for a reason. And enough people around the league are like, yeah, it's probably for a reason. So I think, from now on, when now it's great because Dallas approached the Lakers about Luka, and the Lakers were like, fantastic, awesome, let's go ahead and move forward with those talks. And they probably felt high off of that process there. So when it happened again, they were like, perfect, we do need a center. But I think now, like after this experience, it might be a little bit more dubious when they're like, why are you offering? Like, what's the catch here? And my dad's favorite saying, and it explains a lot of how I am as a human being, is if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. This Mark Williams thing's felt a little too good to be true, and it turned out it was. All right, last one here before we get to the Super Bowl. Passport Blackheart writes, they don't have a 10% chance at winning it. I'm not sold on small ball working, especially if you're relying on Vando offensively or Rui defensively. And what's going on with Woods? Look, I think probably 10 is a little optimistic. I mean that like I would probably, like, if I had to bet on the Lakers, like the kind of odds that I would be looking for is like probably like 15-1. So like, chart out that likelihood there. And that's, I think, closer to the actual likelihood that they win a championship. I'm more talking about like they have to have like 10 out of 10 is the greatest season that the Lakers can possibly have, right? And the Lakers would have to get to like 90% of that to win a championship this year. And I would say those are about the same odds. Now, good point about both of those guys. Darvin started finding fun ways to utilize Rui or Vando offensively. And Rui has actually been quite good defensively since the Lakers have really started playing so many wings together. And I think that helps. But yeah, they like the track record of teams winning, going small are pretty low, right? It's like the Warriors. Remember, the Suns famously never won playing that way. Like the Celtics won with Kristaps Porzingis last year. The Lakers won in 2019-20 with Anthony Davis and Dwight Howard and JaVale and Boogie. And obviously the Nuggets won with Jokic. So like centers are obviously having a bit of a moment. And that makes me very nervous about the Lakers basically having to go. Remember, they didn't want to go in this direction roster-wise. They traded for a center. They knew they needed to trade for a center. Rob acknowledged that publicly. And then, it just didn't work out. So I think they're also nervous about being a small ball team and being predominantly a small ball team. And it's not the best. It's pretty terrifying that the Lakers could face the Denver Nuggets in a series, and your starting center in that one is Jaxson Hayes. Now, you do have the athleticism to maybe, affect passing lanes and kind of erode at the foundation in the ways that Jokic can beat you. But like, and you essentially turn him into like, all right, Jokic, if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to drop 50 every game. And he might just be like, yeah, I'm being guarded by Jaxson Hayes. Okay, I will. And then you're just screwed. But everybody is just screwed against Jokic. He's having arguably the best individual season anybody has ever had. So like, What do you do with that guy? All right. That is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge podcast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your evening. If you guys are out somewhere, your friend at a friend's house, or you're out at a bar or anything like that, please be safe tonight. Please, it's so much cheaper to hop into an Uber than to have to deal with the financial impact of a DUI, or it is so much easier to deal with the internal guilt of leaving your car somewhere than the eternal guilt that you will feel if you hop into your car and something bad happens there. So please be safe. Enjoy it. Going to be a great game. I haven't been watching, so we'll see how the game goes from here. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening and your afternoon and your weekend. Make somebody else's. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.